So in our last session, we were seeing about the requirement section. So about the frequency class, damage class, weight, all those things we saw. So today we will see about how to link the test case and the test case design. Sorry, test case and the execution. So by linking
Okay.
the test case, we will be able to track the coverage. So for the requirement, how much we have covered in the test case. So how many test cases we have created or how many yet to be created. All those things will be tracked by linking the test case to the requirement. So first we'll see that. Mm, so we have one requirement login. So under that we have logging in with valid user credentials and three different requirements are there. So logging I'll create two more test cases using this. Email. Valid as solving the some invalid email I'm giving. Invalid plus. So we have three scenarios created, and so the coverage specified will be calculated based on the work state of the test case. So
Okay.
I'm keeping the work state for this first test case as completed, and the second one is inward, and third one is planned. So in order to link the test case to the requirement, just drag and drop. That will be added like this. And in the same way, valid email. Mm. So this first scenario, the coverage specified is set as 100 because the work state is completed. And for the second one, it is 20. The value is 20 because the work state is planned. And for the third one, the coverage specified is 50% because the work state is in work. So based on the work state of the test case, the coverage specified will be calculated. The overall coverage specified is 94. So 94 in the sense it will add the contribution percentage. So based on the contribution percentage, the coverage specified will be calculated. So 91.43 is 100% done. So it will add 91.43 plus it is 50% for 2.86. So 1.43 will be added to 91.43, which is 92.86. 92.86 plus 20% of this 5.71 will be added and total will be 94. So totally 94 percentage has been done for this particular requirement login. Not execution, the work state, based on the work state. Here we have work state, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So based on the work state. So normally we would set the work state if you have just started working in the test case, the work state will be planned, right? So and if you are doing some process, the work state will be in work. And if you are done with the test case, the 1 minute. Shafiq, 1 minute, I'll take.
Okay.
Okay, so based on the work state of the test case, this coverage specified will be calculated. So based on the execution state, which means if it is passed or failed, its execution state will be calculated. We'll see how it will be done. So now we have linked the test case to the requirement section. So now we are going to link the execution to the requirement section. Before that, I'm going to move it to execution section. So in order to link the execution list to the requirement, the same thing. We have to link this is the execution list. So we have to link the execution list to the requirement set. So while linking the test case to the requirement, we linked each test case to the each requirement. So while linking the execution list, we have to link the execution list to the requirement set. So after linking, you can see like this one element has been added in the requirement section. So now after, So for now, I'm just making it pass and fail manually in order to show you the result. So I'm setting the result as passed, and for this I'm setting the result as fail. So in requirement section, you can see based on the execution state will be calculated. So this first requirement is 100% passed. So it is passed. So the state will be 100. So the second, okay, 1 minute, we have to make all the work state as completed. Okay, so this is passed and this is failed. The second one is failed, and sorry, the second one doesn't have any result, which means it is neither passed or not failed. And third one is failed. So uh, the cumulative execution state, you can see 91% passed, which means the contribution percentage 91, that is passed, and 3 failed. This is the contribution percentage. So based on that, the total execution state percentage will be calculated.
Okay.
And 6% has no result, 5.71. So based on the contribution percentage, the overall percentage will be showed up. Clear? Are any questions? Okay, so normally how we will be working, first step would be we will be creating the requirement. So all the requirements that we have to cover in for that application will be created here. And so it's recommended that for each requirement we have to create one test case, which means one test case per requirement kind of thing. So you have to create. So for example, first requirements will be here, and you have to see that logging in with valid user credential is the as the requirement. So for that requirement, you have to create one test case, and as soon as you have created the test case, you have to link that to the requirement. So
Yeah.
that would be the process. So for each requirement, you will be creating the test case, and as soon as you create the test case, you will be linking that with the requirement, the related requirement. So, so if you are creating the test cases which are not in the requirement, or if you are not creating the test cases for the requirement that is present in the requirement section, you will not be able to track it properly. So it's always recommend to create the each one test case per requirement, and as soon as you create the test case, you just link with the requirement.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, I guess that's it with the requirement section. So I guess we will be creating this is the requirement set, and another requirement set we will be creating the requirements, and for each requirements we will be giving the frequency class and damage class, and based on the frequency, so frequency class means based on how frequent we are using that particular requirement, frequency class will be entered. The value range is 1 to 10, and damage class is based on how it's going to affect the finance of client. We will in the case of failure, so the damage class will be entered. So based on frequency class and damage class, weight will be calculated. So the formula is 2 power addition of frequency class and damage class, and weight will be calculated, sorry, contribution percentage will be calculated based on the weight. So coverage, so we can link the test case and the execution list to the requirement. So by linking the test case, we can track the coverage of the test case for that requirement, and based on the execution state, sorry, based and after linking the execution list to the requirement state, we can track the execution state of the requirement. So this is the thing we will be doing in the requirement section.
Okay.
Any questions or doubts, something? Okay, so then we can go to test case design, I guess. So um, test case design section um, helps us to create multiple scenario of, for the same functionality. Like for login functionality, we would test it with multiple input, right? With valid values, invalid values, some characters. So we will test the multiple scenario for the same functionality, right? So in that time, um, test case design helps us to simplify the creation of test case. So we'll see how we can create the test case design for login functionality. So this is the root folder, and under that we can have, so for login I'm creating one, for demo workshop I'm creating a separate folder. So under folders we can create the test test sheet. So this is called test sheet. So test sheet is nothing but under which we will have all the elements arranged, like all the elements that are needed to design the scenario. We will, so this is the most element that is present in the test case design section, under which we will be creating all the objects, sorry, attributes that are needed to design our test case. So I've created one test sheet, so I'm renaming it as log. So this is within this element test sheet, we will create the ob, uh, attribute and instances. So attribute means it defines the it defines the different controls or business objects that are present in our application. So for example, if you take this computer's link, this will be the attribute. So the different business controls at the functionality that are present in our application will refer to the attributes. So the computers, our books, electronics, all would act as the um, attributes. And instances means the various inputs that we can give to the attribute will be considered as instances. So for this computer's attribute, desktop, notebooks, accessories, those will act as the instances. So, and maybe another example we can take, like, yeah, categories. If you take categories, the categories will be attributes, will be called as attribute in the test case design section. And the different options that are available under the categories will be considered as in instances. So under the test sheet, we will be creating the attribute. So for login, For login, we have email and password as the attributes. So in order to create the attribute, just right click on the test sheet and you can see create attribute. So for email, I've created one attribute, and for password, I've created another attribute. So these are the attributes. So under these attributes, we will be creating the instances. Okay, before coming to instance, we'll tell you about the attributes and the properties that are available for attributes. Mm, okay, so attributes can have sub-attributes. Um, like this, email is the attribute, and under that I can have the sub-attributes like this. Valid and invalid will be sub-attributes to the email. And if you see in the property section, business relevant, so we can toggle between the business relevance using these options. Also we can toggle between the business relevance. So there are three options for attributes. So by default the business relevant will be yes. So other options are no or result. So yes means if it is business relevant, it means it will be the attribute will be used in the uh, in our testing. So the attribute will be used in our testing. If the business relevant, no, which means if I am creating an attribute, for example, I'm creating an attribute and I'm naming it as tester. So I've created an attribute tester. I have created this tester attribute for my reference in order to assign which tester will be testing which test scenario. In order to assign that, I have created one attribute called tester. Okay, so this tester attribute, I'm not going to use it in my testing, in my automation. While I'm executing, I'm not going to use that attribute tester. It's just for my administrative purpose. I've created one attribute tester. So that time we have to set the business relevant as no. So the icon will be changed like this. So if we are using the attribute in our testing, that will be set as, for that the business relevant will be set as yes. And if we are not going to use it with which is not relevant to our testing, if we have created that for administrative purpose or for reference of us, that time we will set the business relevant as no. And the third business relevant is result. So we may have some attribute for verification purpose. So for example, in login, we will have some validation. So if I'm entering some invalid value to email or password, that time I have to verify some validation, right? So in order to verify something, if we have created some attribute, that time we will set the business relevant as result. So these are the three business relevance that are present in regard to attributes. So one is business relevant no, if you're not using that attribute in our testing, and the second one is business relevant yes. So if we are using that in our testing, we will set the business relevant as yes. And the third, finally, if you have created the attribute for verification purpose, which means we will not be giving anything as input, we will just verify that, and we will set the business relevant as result. So these are the three options present for business relevance. And one more property we can look into uh, is the attribute type. So if the attribute doesn't have sub-attributes, the attribute type will be physical. So if the attribute has sub-attributes, the attribute type will be logical. So this one thing for the knowledge purpose. Attribute type will be logical if the attribute has sub-attributes, and if the attribute doesn't have sub-attributes, the attribute type will be physical. And what so using, we can select here in the property, or we can use the option here using the toggle business relevance. So you can toggle between. Mhm. Okay, so these are the things we have to know when we are creating the attributes. So we have created one tester attribute. So in order to assign the test cases scenario to the specific tester in order to test them. And for login, we have email and password as different attributes. So for email, I have two sub attributes as valid and invalid. And validation. So in order to verify the validation messages, I have created one attribute. So under the attributes, we will be creating the instances. So instances is nothing but all the possible inputs that we can create, that we can give to the specific attribute will be the instances. So for valid, I'm creating two instances. So in order to create the instances, right click on the attribute and create instance. So I'm giving one valid. This is valid email, and I'm giving one more value. So these are valid. So we have one more sub attribute invalid. So for that we can create one instance, maybe some invalid email. So in this way we will be creating the instances and will give all the possible inputs we will be using while testing the different scenario for that particular functionality. And for password, I'm creating this the valid password, maybe some invalid password. Okay, validation, we'll see that later. So in instances also we can toggle between the character. So we can define the character of the instance. So character in the sense, so by default it is valid. So this icon will refer to the valid instance. So these are the valid email IDs. So the character will be valid. And we have invalid and straight through options also. So this is invalid email ID. So we will set the character for this instance as invalid. So the icon has changed to this. And again, this is the valid instance. So the character will be valid. And this is the invalid one. So we will be setting the character as invalid. Okay. So this is valid and invalid. So and we have one more character option for character called straight through. So the straight through means, so that is also the valid one. So normally for um, smoke testing in the sense we will do the eye level testing, right? We will do one flow of one positive flow. So after we have done with the testing, and in order to make sure there is no um, any more issue, in intermittent issue, we will be doing some smoke testing in some cases, right? So that in that case we will be doing the eye level testing, which means one flow of positive testing. So for that we will be for eye level testing normally, we will use the valid inputs. We will give the valid inputs, right? So the that valid inputs we can define them as straight through. And maybe for this password we can set it as straight through. You're getting what I said, like
Yep.
for straight through. So for eye level testing we will be using the positive inputs. So for that positive inputs we can set the character as straight through. Okay. So there are three characters: valid, invalid, and straight through. And then then the property is position. So in position we have two different options. One is inner and another one is boundary. So for example, I am creating one more attribute called quantity, and I have some value. So the range should be 1 to 100 for the quantity. So normally if we have that range, we will be doing the boundary testing in some scenario, right? So some values will be boundary values and some values will be inner values. So maybe 0, if we are using the value 0 or 1, these are boundary values. And maybe 900 and 101, these are boundary values we will be using to test the boundary test. And in order to verify that quantity text box, we will use some inner values also. From 2 to 98, sorry, 99 will be the inner values. In order to test the range of 1 to 100, these values we will be using for boundary testing, and these values we will be using for in to test the normal the range. So we can set the position for that. So we can set the position as boundary for boundary values, and for inner values we can set the position as inner. So by default it will be inner. So if you are testing the boundary values, so you can set the position as boundary. Mm, yeah. So these are the two options present available for the instance: toggling between character and toggling between position. Mm, okay. For tester, I'll create. Okay, I'm giving your name. This is for administration purpose, and email and password we have created. So validation I'll show you. And quantity, in order to show the boundary property, I created that. Clear till now, or you have any question? Are you clear with what attributes and instances?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so why we are setting all these properties like character, position, and the business relevant? Why we are creating means, so these are the instances at attribute level. So these are the instances at attribute level. So we have some instances at test sheet level. So we will generate the instance sheet level also. So in order to generate those instances at test sheet level, we have two different ways. So one is manual way and another one is automatic generation of instances. Using these options, we will be generating the instances at test sheet level automatically. And we have manual way also. So why, if I'm doing it manual way, I don't need to set all these things and like setting the character, position, or business relevant. But if I'm generating it using these options, that time these combinations, these options will be generating the instances based on the property of the attributes and the instances. So for that purpose, we have to define the valid or invalid or business relevant or not business relevant. All those things we have to set. So that is the purpose of setting the properties for attributes and instances. So okay, first I'll tell you how to create the instances at test sheet level manually. So the instances at test sheet level will generate the test case will generate the test case in the test case section. So for example, I'm creating one instance at test sheet level. So I have created one instance for valid credential for the scenario valid credential. So this instance will be generated as one test case will be generated as test case in test case section after we have done all the process. So it will be generated as one test case. So invalid credentials. So I've created three instances at test sheet level. So these three instances will be generated as three test cases in test case section. So this is manual way of generating test cases. So say that. So generating instances. Okay. For validation, okay, if I am entering the invalid password, I'll get the validation as the credentials provided are incorrect. I'm adding that validation. And if I'm entering incorrect email ID, it will show no customer account form. So these are the two validations we will be verifying in login page. So I have added that. Mm, okay, so now we are done with creating the test sheet. So in test case section, create separate folder TCD test case design for login. Okay. So we have the login test case. So um, we are going to first step in the linking the test case design. So we have created one test sheet with all the inputs that we will be using to test the login functionality. We have created the test sheet. So we have to link this test sheet to the test case. So in order to link the test case, first we have to convert this test case into template. So in order to convert it into template, just right click on the test case and you can see the option convert to template. So we'll be selecting that option. So it has been converted to template. So you can see the icon. So after converting the test case into template, we have to link the test sheet to the template. So it is linked. So we cannot see anything. So but after dragging and dropping, it will be convert. It will be linked. The test sheet will be linked to the test case. So after linking the test sheet to the test case, the next step would be linking the attributes to the value. So for email and password, we have to link the value. Email. So you can see Excel parameter as we have generated. We can use the Excel function directly or drag and drop the attribute to the uh, related step value. I can use Excel function also. Email. So you can select from the suggestion. So password. Okay, we have to have the validation also. verifying validation. Verify. So here the message will be coming, and here we have to use the property, some properties. So I'm using outer text property. So we have linked the attributes to the related control. The step value we have linked it. And we have missed one thing. So here we have to select the values. So for valid credential instance, we have to select the valid value. So we have to select the values for each attributes and instances. So I'm selecting, giving the value, I'm selecting the input. So there will be no validation. And for tester, I'm selecting your name, which means you have to test this instance. So this is for administrative purpose, so that's not an issue. And the tester for this instance is Ruby. And invalid username, so I'm selecting the invalid value. And for password, valid one. And we will be getting the validation no customer account form. And for this scenario, invalid password, I'm selecting the tester as your name, and we have to select the valid and invalid password. The validation will be the credential provided or incorrect. So for each instance, we have selected all the necessary input. So we converted the test case to template, and we linked the test sheet to the test case, and then we link the attributes to each test tip value. So after we are done with this, we can generate the uh, we have to instantiate that. So now after you can see one option, instantiate. So instantiating will generate the test cases. So I'm just instantiating now. So you can see 3 test cases got generated. So these 3 valid the instances that we created under the test sheet level has got generated as test sheet now. So valid credentials, invalid username, invalid password. So each instances are generated as um, test cases after instantiating. Then if you entering login details, okay, the email is empty. Sorry. Add link the wrong attribute. Okay, as I changed some value, uh, so after making some changes in test sheet or in the template, what we have to do is reinstantiate so that it will be the changes will be reflected in the test cases. So now the email has been is coming. So the for valid credential test case, the email is valid one and password is valid one. And if you are going to validation, it will be empty because we didn't give any value. And invalid username, okay, the value is not. Okay, 1 minute. But I'll delete this one. Okay, here for invalid username, I'm selecting that. What I did is I deleted the invalid sub attribute and I added it to the valid. The invalid also I've added to the valid thing. So I guess we don't need the sub attributes here. We have to directly give that. For invalid password, I'm selecting the valid one. Okay, I made some changes, so I'm reinstantiating. Okay, so for now, invalid username, the invalid email, and valid password is coming up. And for invalid password, the email will be valid one and password is the wrong one. And validation will be the credentials provided are incorrect will be verified. So in this way, test case design will be helpful to test the multiple scenario for the same functionality. So this is manual way of generating the instance. So this is manual way. So tomorrow we'll see how to generate the instances automatically. Automatic way of generating instances. So other steps will be same. Other steps, whatever we are doing here in the test case design test case section will be same. Only the way of generating instances under test sheet will be different. So we'll see that tomorrow.